This is a webinar that is part of a series of live encounters online that we offer within the portal of well-being for humanitarians and health practitioners. And this is a service that we offer within our distance learning MSc Humanitarian Intervention at the University of East London. I'm Lucia Berdondini, and I am an associate professor in psychology and a gestalt therapist, and I'm also the course leader of the master. And I've been working in the field of humanitarian psychosocial support, particularly for the past 20 years. And I'm very, very pleased to have here today Hélène Ross and Silvia Risi from CoCreate Humanity, and to have them here for this very exciting webinar. So before leaving everything to them, can I just make sure that some rules are shared? So the webinar today will be recorded, as I said, and I'm asking please to keep your microphones off during the talk, and then for what I understand there will be time at the end for questions and discussions, and then of course at that point you can intervene. There is a chat that not always works, I have to say, but you can maybe raise your hand if you have any questions during the talk, and maybe we can check with Silvia and Hélène if that's okay, if people may ask a question during the speech, or if you prefer to have them all at the end. I think that's it. Of course, at the end of all this, I'm going to share the slides, and also I think both UEL and CoCreate Humanities will share the video recording of the intervention. Is that all fine with everyone? Is that all clear? Do you have any questions at this stage? Okay, so thank you very much for being here, and I will just mute myself and let Hélène and Silvia to introduce themselves and start the talk. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Lucia, for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're okay. My name is Hélène Ross, and I'm here today with Silvia Risi. I'm the co-founder and the president of CoCreate Humanity, a Swiss association based in Geneva that has been created in 2019. Initially, it was created with two other people from the ICRC, and they left last year. And now we have a complete new team, new board members, a pool of peer support, a pool of supervision. And as I said, today we are almost 40 people, 40 volunteers. And I hope you will enjoy this session. I'm just going to share my screen now. This is not the right one, sorry. Can you guys see it?
Yes.
Okay. So the topic of our webinar today will be humanitarian peer support, a key psychological link in the recovery process of aid workers. And I really would like to thank the University of East London and Lucia for welcoming us today. So the speakers, as I said, Hélène Ross and Silvia Risi. And here is the summary for today. Silvia will cover the three first points, and I will cover the last three ones. Silvia, you're going to share a little bit about you, and then we can go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Hélène, for this introduction. And I would like to thank everyone for taking your time to be here with us this evening. And special thanks, of course, to Dr. Lucia, who gave us this opportunity to be here with you today and to present the work of CoCreate Humanity and peer support in humanitarian space. As Helen was saying and showing, I am a humanitarian peer supporter. I've been collaborating with CoCreate Humanity since September 2024. I spent 16 years in working in the humanitarian sector, in field missions, in emergencies, post-emergencies, or resilience interventions. And I have reached out to CoCreate Humanity because I was interested in this concept of peer support, and I wanted to have some information about what you could do to become a peer supporter. And then when I was asked to become a member of the peer supported team, I was extremely happy to take that opportunity that really resonated with me. And I just recently certified as a coach, and I have already received. We will talk about training in peer support more later on during the presentation, but there has been already training that I have received together with other member of the team, and there will be more to come. And again, I will say more about this shortly. So. Yes, Helen, you can go to the next one. Thanks. Okay, the first slides we prepared are basically to give an idea and a context, create a context for why we are here, why we're talking about peer support, humanitarian peer support. And we thought that figures can be also very revealing and very interesting. As you know, the risks and hazards that can impact on the work and life of humanitarian aid workers in the field are increasing. And as a matter of fact, 2024 was a very bad year, let's say, in terms of incidents. So a number of 388 workers were killed across 20 countries. And of course, with a majority of incidents happening in the occupied Palestinian territories in South Sudan and Sudan. And this is happening at the moment that the United Nations, in any case, have also come up with a resolution that is stressing the importance of strengthening protection for United Nations personnel, humanitarian workers at large, and the premises in armed conflict zones. Okay, we can move on. Thank you. We wanted to make a point about this because I think that most of you know about this that we call the myth of the unbreakable humanitarian. I'm sure I'm not saying anything that it's new to you. There is this very common and very well-rooted idea and image that humanitarian aid workers are invulnerable, are indestructible, are unbreakable. And it is a sort of culture around this that emphasizes the resilience that we always have to put up, that we always have to show, and the fact that we always have to have everything under control and continue functioning even when we feel that everything around us is collapsing and maybe ourselves are facing difficulties. And consequences can be extremely serious and dangerous. For example, not paying enough attention to signals of distress, and so basically delaying the search for support and help. Sometimes also that is a consequence also the fact that access to psychological support can be very tricky and very difficult. Yes, Len, thank you. We mentioned also few reports that were issued in the past by United Nations, and there is also a slide on a conference that was organized by Action Against Hunger. This is basically to stress also the fact that there have been already discussions around humanitarian aid workers' mental health well-being for quite some time now. Research studies have been done, reports have been issued, surveys have been and data have been collected, because there is a common recognition of the importance of identifying what the most common mental health disorders are for humanitarian aid workers. We will see afterwards what they are, but also understanding that it's very important to identify what the root causes for these disorders are, and what are also the contributing factors that can lead you to these disorders. Next, thank you. Okay, this is a very important graph because it shows what the most common mental health issues are for humanitarian aid workers. And I did the math, and it adds up to 83%, 83.72% of the respondents of the survey that reported suffering either for anxiety disorder or post-traumatic stress disorder or major depressive disorder, or somehow also recurring then to hazardous drinking as a negative coping mechanism. Okay. Is there a humanitarian culture of stress? This report was issued in 2010, and it inquires about trying to understand if the level of stress and the kind of that is present in the humanitarian sector that could bring us to think that maybe there is indeed the culture of stress that we were saying before, this idea of the unbreakable humanitarian aid workers. I will not go into these specific figures about baseline stress, traumatic stress, and cumulative stress, but if there are questions on that, please do not hesitate. But we really wanted to show the different levels of stress that are very common within the humanitarian community. Next. I particularly think that this slide is very clear and is very important. It shows the cobbler's paradox, this idea that the cobbler's children have no shoes. So it's basically an important reminder that we have to be mindful of our own needs and the needs also of the people closest to us, even if we are taken by a very busy professional life, even if we think that we are there for a very important cause and purpose, and we can't really stop because we need to continue functioning. But it's very important to take care, first of all, of ourselves before we think of being able to provide our support to other people. And the cobbler's paradox, in a way, is can be compared to the humanitarian workers or the rescuer paradox. So the lesson that we can, of course, draw from this is the importance of a personal and professional balance, the importance of to recognize and manage risks and hazards, acknowledging them, and also looking for sustainable solutions for our own health. Thank you, Helen. Now, in the previous slide, there was a percentage of baseline stress, and then traumatic stress and cumulative stress. Now we wanted also to highlight what key stressors are. So factors that go to also make baseline stress more acute and turn into something else. And I think that we just mentioned a few of them because the list would be longer, but we wanted to identify what the key stressor could be. So there are already studies and researches about that. And we know that, for example, age can be a factor. So young individuals can be more subject to and more vulnerable to psychological impacts. And definitely, of course, people also with a history of mental health disorders entering the humanitarian sector. We also know that I think that most of us have also experiences in challenging environments, safety and security concerns, isolated and remote duty stations, lack of organizational support, lack of duty of care from the organization we work for, toxic working environments, excessive workload, excessive turnover, understaffing that forces us to work endless number of hours per day, exposure to trauma, human suffering and crisis, which is constant in some cases, health hazards, but also imbalance as a consequence, also imbalance between effort and reward. When we put so much effort and so much energy into what we do, and then not only the reward is not up to that, but also the impact that we would like to see doesn't add up to what we have really put and invested into our work. Moral injunctions, heavy workloads, as I said before, and job instability. We've seen it just recently with a crisis within the humanitarian sector, the funding crisis, and how this has had a terrible impact on humanitarian workforce in terms of losing job and having to reinvent themselves sometimes, and also like how difficult the sector has become because of its instability. Now, risks specifically affecting mental health of humanitarian workers, burnout. Burnout is also a consequence, but can be also, of course, a risk. Post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety and depression, we've seen also previously in the graph, these are among the most common mental disorders that are faced by humanitarian workers. Secondary traumatic stress, vicarious trauma, compassion fatigue, panic attacks. Now, again, about these definitions, if there will be question, we could come back again, because sometimes there is a fine and thin line between some of them, but we really wanted to mention them to show all these risks that are and how many risks actually are affecting also mental health of humanitarian workers, and then moral injury, ethical dilemmas. And there are also more and more studies and researches about these topics, which also show how important is paying attention to these potential disorders and risks. Yes, thank you. Again, we're talking about the human cost of helping others, but what we can do. We thought that it's really important to start from an idea of organizational culture, because we very often talk about resilience. Resilience can be individual resilience, can be organizational resilience, and a resilient organization will also support their own personnel and staff to be more resilient. It is also important not to leave the whole responsibility of strengthening resilience to the individual, because the organizations need to be responsible and accountable for the safety, security, and well-being and mental health of their staff. We think that it's very important to ensure support throughout the cycle of a mission. So pre-departure, during the mission, and extending and providing long-term post-mission follow-up. That needs to be also personalized. We mentioned training. One-size-fits-all training doesn't really work. We need to be able to design training that is very specific to the context and takes into account what the specific risk-related situation of that specific mission can be. And we also think that sometimes there is a tendency to reinvent the wheel in the sector, despite the fact that we always say that we will not do that, but we still tend to work in silos. And so it's really important to counteract this tendency and really work in a more collaborative way, for example, sharing resources, standards, and best practices. Thank you. Now we come to the topic of today. So, what is peer support? So, peer support was first founded, let's say, or appeared in the United States as Alcoholics Anonymous in 1935, but has had also a long story afterwards and an important development. The modern movement of the 70s, for example, gained significant traction in the US and fueled by the civil rights movement and experiences of those who had been through the psychiatric system. But then we also come to expanded applications of the peer support approach, which has expanded beyond mental health, finding applications in various areas such as chronic disease management, maternal and child health, and substance abuse, first responders, military, and the humanitarian sector and humanitarian aid workers. And we come to the current days, where professionalization of peer support is becoming more and more important, with more and more formal trainings which are available, and we will see that afterwards. So what is peer support? We can say that peer support is a system of mutual assistance, but what is at the center of peer support? Lived and experience is at the center of this concept. So we can call it experiential knowledge. The fact that people with shared experiences offer their emotional, practical, and social help and support to people who are experiencing similar situation. Now, what is really important is that the recovery process in that specific, so the journey that may have been done previously by the peer supporter is shared and is at the center of peer support, of mental health peer support, and we will see it afterwards. But what is very important is that there is a sharing of an experience that, of course, is benefits from this common knowledge. And we mentioned a few of the situations where this can have particular effect. For example, in case of trauma, of mental health struggles, displacement, illness, but there are countless examples of this. Thank you. So this image shows how CoCreate Humanity also is positioned around this. But what is more important is where does the person stand? The person and their resources are at the recovery journey, because the idea of peer support is really to look at the person in need as a resourceful person. So and that the person who is mastering their own process of recovery that can be co-constructed with the peer supporter. So we wanted to identify also what are the most important elements that could also compose psychosocial recovery and rehabilitation. We have our support systems such as friends and family. We have our sports and hobbies and passions, which are extremely important in the recovery process. We have the organization that could be our workspace, and very important, we have doctors and therapists. And CoCreate Humanity as a symbol of peer support in this equation. Thank you. What are the key elements of peer support? So there is, first of all, reciprocity. It's important to say that because it's a win-win situation. We have a peer supporter that is sharing a journey with somebody who is in need. And so we can say that both parties can give and receive support in that particular relationship, and the empathy that can come from the lived experience, from the common understanding of the same sector, for example, the same or similar experiences, is very important. Empowerment and reduced hierarchy is also a key element of peer support. Why? Because we will see it also later, but we have a symmetric and horizontal relationship between a peer supporter and the person who is asking for support. And we don't have a top-down approach. We really have a horizontal relationship between two equals. So it's not a relationship between a patient versus an expert, but it's a relationship between equals. And as we said before, also it's important to see that the recovery journey, which stands at the core of mental health peer support, is co-constructed between the two people. So there is, of course, it's built upon mutual understanding, shared lived experiences, and fostering this non-hierarchical relationship, and with a final objective also of empowering individuals towards recovery and personal growth. The idea is that we are also there to ask what the person wants and also to listen what their ideas are, of course, to build together this recovery journey. Thank you. We mentioned before, you saw in the image that doctors and therapists were there, and I think that this is very important, and we want to stress this, and it will never be too much to do that. The peer support doesn't replace therapy. It actually complements it, because there are already studies and researches that show that, and there are examples that prove how working in pairs between therapists and peer supporters can really be extremely beneficial and effective for people who need support. But we do not want to replace the knowledge and expertise that come, of course, with having support of a mental health professional. Thank you. I think that there is a short video that we can see now, because there is a collaboration that's been going on for quite some time between CoCreate Humanity and the students from Gobelin Paris, which is this animation school. And Hélène is going to show you a short video to see what it is all about.
Albanie, 1999. Je suis responsable psychosocial à Tirana. Je rencontre des expatriés et du personnel humanitaire international. Ils me racontent les journées où ils ont aidé les réfugiés à franchir la frontière entre le Kosovo et l'Albanie, obligés de dormir sous leur lit pour éviter le ricochet des balles qui faisaient rage dans les rues. Lorsqu'ils me parlent en privé, ils s'ouvrent un peu plus sur leurs craintes et me racontent les souffrances dont ils ont été témoins, les blessés qu'ils ont soignés, et partagent des histoires d'atrocités que leur ont racontées les réfugiés. J'ai été amenée ici pour soutenir les réfugiés kosovars, mais je vois plutôt un besoin flagrant de soutien parmi ces dizaines d'humanitaires au bord du burn-out. Il semble que personne n'ait remarqué leur épuisement professionnel. Je décide alors de créer un groupe de soutien. Je l'appelle Aide aux aidants et je distribue des prospectus dans les ONG pour annoncer la première réunion. Je dirige ce groupe de soutien au cours des semaines suivantes. Le groupe offre un refuge à ceux d'entre nous qui ont travaillé avec ces réfugiés pour partager leurs expériences, se soutenir et s'entraider.
Thank you, Hélène.
Sorry.
So, thank you. So just briefly, that was like a short video that was based on a shared experience from a humanitarian aid worker. And I think that we all have seen how powerful images can be and how much meaning that can actually give to lived experiences. This is a quote from Professor Nicolas Franck, who is the head of the Pôle Centre Rive Gauche of the Hôpital Vinatier in Lyon, France. And I think that it's a testimony also to how important mental health for those working in the humanitarian sector is, and also a recognition of the work that CoCreate Humanity does to always stress this importance and come to the support also of humanitarian aid workers. Thank you. Now, we spoke about peer support. What we do with CoCreate Humanity is, among other things, is providing humanitarian peer support. So can we try to define this a little bit better? We have observed also what the needs are in the field, what the requests also were, and we have identified like two streamlines: humanitarian peer supporters and mental health humanitarian peer supporters. So mental health humanitarian peer supporter is someone who has experienced a mental health disorder or a mental health condition and has gone through a recovery journey and is now ready to share their experience and their message of hope, and having received formal training. We spoke before about the recovery journey being at the center of this process, and I'll come back to this again because this is very it's pivotal in defining mental health humanitarian peer support. And what is also very important that we will see afterwards in a few minutes is the message of hope that this is conveyed and shared through this lived experience and this recovery journey. But we also have seen that not all the people that would reach out to CoCreate Humanity were facing mental health disorders. Maybe they were, confronted with difficulties that were linked to their professional space or to their personal life while living in a humanitarian context. And so the humanitarian peer supporter is someone who has not necessarily experienced a mental disorder, but is also nonetheless trained to provide support. And we have mentioned here some of the trainings that we have already received. For example, training psychological first aid for first responders. There is a list of more official, formal and academic training that is provided in France, in Belgium, in Switzerland. The good news is that there is more and more recognition of the value of peer support, and with it also more formal and academic training comes in several countries. Through CoCreate Humanity, I and also my fellow peer supporter have been already trained in with several of these trainings. More is coming towards the end of the year, and we know that it's continuous training. So the organization is extremely supportive in providing us with training, because what is one of our objectives is really to professionalize this role of humanitarian peace support. But then I think Hélène will also tell you more about this later on. Thank you, Hélène. Now, this is a visual explanation of bits of the functioning of CoCreate Humanity. There is a general email address that can be reached, and there is a quick response, we say 48 hours, also to identify, according to the need of the person, who the peer supporting team could be the best match. And there are a lot of elements and factors that are also taken into account, also according to the problem that the person is sharing, or the request that the person may have. And then the person, of course, gets back to the organization, confirming or not, and then the peer supporter also reaches out directly to the person who's asking for support. So as you can see, the cycle is pretty quick, because we also acknowledge the importance of being able to provide quick response. And it's important also to say where CoCreate Humanity sets itself in terms of networks that already exist in several countries when peace support is concerned. So CoCreate Humanity has been part of the CORASP, which is a Romandy coordination of associations for mental health action in Switzerland since June 2024. And in few days, CoCreate Humanity will also be officially part of the FAPAF, which is a Federation of Francophone Peer Supporter Associations. And just to say that this is a sign again of how important peer support is considered to be, and how effective. Several networks already exist, with many countries being represented in these networks of peer supporters. Thank you, Hélène. Now, what are the benefits of humanitarian peer support? Why are we here today talking about this, and why is CoCreate Humanity investing so much in this idea? We believe that this approach fosters a culturally sensitive approach to people. Now, our team is a team composed by people coming from different countries, with different languages, with different cultures. And this also gives us the opportunity to be more culturally sensitive. But we also know that culturally sensitive training is important, and we're also going to get this. And when I talked about language, I think that the idea is really to be able, as much as possible, to provide support in the mother tongue of the person. So among the languages that we already provide peer support in, we have English, French, Spanish, Italian, Arabic, Ukrainian, Russian, and more languages hopefully will come. We think that this approach is definitely key and pivotal to break the stigma of asking for help. I mean, I don't need to say that how difficult sometimes it is to reach out for professional help in mental health, because we fear to be stigmatized and to be labeled as a person with a mental health disorder. The fact of reaching out to somebody who has gone through something similar to what we are experiencing can somehow facilitate reaching out and asking for help, breaking this stigma. We spoke before about this horizontal relationship instead of a top-down approach, and this is also part, I think, of breaking the stigma. We believe that this is also an approach that contributes to enhancing and fostering resilience and empowering the person, because, as we said before, the person is put at the center of of the person. And there are definitely other benefits, also strengthening the organizational culture, greater resilience, as we said before, increasing self-awareness, sense of belonging. But I would also like to say a very important, we think, benefit of this approach that is, to be seen also together with other initiatives that are taken, is that a higher quality, that is a healthier workforce in the humanitarian sector equals higher quality of intervention, better impact on vulnerable communities. And I would like just briefly to mention that the World Health Organization states that mental health is more than the absence of mental health condition, but it's rather a state of mental well-being that enables people to cope with the stresses of life, realize their abilities, learn well and work well, and contribute to their communities. So if we accept this equation between the well-being and strong mental health of humanitarian workforce and the quality and higher impact of interventions in the field, I think that we have really done a lot to really work for a healthy workforce in the humanitarian sector. Yes, Helen? I think that I hand it over to you.
Yes, thank you, Sylvia, for the presentation. I'm not going to speak that fast as you, because my English is not fluent as you are, as the one you have. What the key benefits of humanitarian peer support and what CoCreate Humanity is doing. I mean, peer support has always existed. It's something, it's informal help that has always existed. What do we bring more? We bring a secure, confidential, and safe space outside the organizations. We know that some organizations already have their peer support communities, such as MSF or the UNHCR, but just keep in mind that those supports are within the organizations. So people don't really dare to talk. They are really afraid to be stigmatized, and they are afraid to lose their job, of course. So what we can bring is just complementary to what organizations are bringing to their own employees. The support that we bring to the humanitarian colleagues is mostly online, but it happens from time to time that we have people in person, when people are between two missions, when they're coming back to Switzerland, or sometime from France, they're traveling to Switzerland. And you don't need to be members of CoCreate Humanity if you need some help, so no membership required. And I would like to emphasize that we are covering different generations of humanitarians, those who are going on their first missions and need to know that they will have a kind of backup. We are supporting people who are currently on the field. We are supporting people who are transitioning and don't know if they're going to keep working in the sector, and especially nowadays with all the cuts that you can see. And those who left the humanitarian sector and retirees. Why? Because, and especially if we talk about PTSD, it doesn't come when you are running after a mission, when you are on the field. It comes after, when everything is quiet, when you are in your garden. So we had 3-4 beneficiaries who are retired from the sector, and we are really happy to be able to provide that community to them. And we also there for the families. It happened that we had some children of humanitarians, wives, husbands, who need to get to understand what's happening to their partners or to their parents. And of course, with what CoCreate Humanity is providing, we are building the trust more easily than formal therapy, because in certain cultures, as you know, people don't dare to reach a therapist. They're afraid to be stigmatized, and it's much more easier for them to talk with a peer who knows about the context and the humanitarian environment. And of course, what the humanitarian peer support brings is we are conveying a positive message of hope. And I mean, for all of you, I don't know if you're going to stay for your entire life in the sector, and even for people who left the sector already, we are trying to build a new profession, the profession of humanitarian peer supporter. This is really important that we constitute an academic background to do this if we want the initiative to remain in the future. And what we do is we work closely with the beneficiary. As Sylvia said, it's all about co-construction, co-creation between the helper and the person who is helped. And this co-construction of the recovery journey is really, really important. Here you have some faces of our humanitarian peer support pool. As I said, we are now almost 40 people. We have 7 board members. We have 20 humanitarian peer supporters. They all speak French, English. You have people speaking Ukrainian, Russian, Wolof as well. And we have a supervision team with 6 clinical psychologists. And soon we will have also a supervision team with some professional peer supporters in Switzerland, Belgium, France, and Canada. And we currently have 3 trainees. You have 2 of them in the audience, 2 motion designers from the Gobelin School, and we have 2 students who are helping us. As mentioned previously, we are all volunteers. We are running this organization for now 6 years. We all have 1 or 2 jobs in parallel. So I really would like to thank all the volunteers who are contributing to make this initiative so great. And of course, how you can get involved, how you can help co-create humanity, please talk about us. The humanitarian peer support we provide is for free, because we want to be able to reach the local staff, especially the local staff who doesn't have the same support system as expatriates. And but we are there for everyone. For organizations, we would like them to embed peer models in their structures. Some of them have done it, as I said, like MSF and UNHCR. And we want them to refer to Co-Create Humanity in case they have not enough people to support the staff. And especially now with the cuts, we know that the MHH PSS positions have been cut for most of the organizations. And it's really important to talk with the donors because what we want them to be aware is that they have to support our work. We want them to fund and to help us to professionalize the humanitarian peer supports. And it will encourage as well organizations to have this strategy in mind that, of course, they have a staff mental health unit, but it would be great also that they could develop the peer support. INSO, International NGOs Safety Organizations, has become our first institutional member in April 2025. We felt really honored. We mostly have local staff in support nowadays. I think everything began in December 2024 when they asked Co-Create Humanity to deploy an emergency counseling after a very critical incident. And we've been able to deploy the support for almost 40 people for 2 weeks. And we had sessions with clinical psychologists and humanitarian peer support. And it was just amazing to see how it resonated within the different groups we had. They separated the management from the logistics people, etc. And we had a very huge impact on what happened after that critical incident. And they lost a local colleague at that time. And what we wanted to do, because grief was something really big at that time, and they wanted the organization to recognize the loss of the colleague. So what we did, we proposed to do for free a remembrance concert. We have the chance to have several ambassadors, and one of them is an international cellist. So what we've done, beginning of January, we organized a remembrance concert online, a private concert for the staff, and it was really, really appreciated. And from time to time, we're having some official mandates from organizations such as Médecins du Monde or Impact or the ICRC to provide some workshops about stress or about burnout, etc., etc. I'm not going to read the 2 testimonials you have here from the 2 beneficiaries that we had. You will have the slides, but We have supported more than 120 people so far. It's not that big, but do not forget that we are a small drop in that humanitarian ocean. We are moving forward with a lot of humility. We're not going to change the world entirely, but step by step. And when you save a life, you save the world. So we are really happy that we've been able to bring some support to those people. Florence has been able to return on the field. She was in a very critical situation. And Luc is one of the retired people we supported. He's having Parkinson, and he's still nowadays reaching to co-create humanity as a complement of his therapy with his psychologist. We have other actions, and the way we do our advocacy work is very particular as well. We are an information platform. Every month we provide online workshop or conferences or webinars on different topics. We have talked about suicide in the humanitarian sector, how to transition. We did some stress management workshop as well. Tomorrow, if you speak French, you will have the possibility to be with us to discuss with Baptiste, who made a thesis on the mental health in the humanitarian sector. And what we showed you before, the Humanimation project, we have these very great collaborations with Gobelin Paris, which is the first school in the world of animation and illustrations. And this year, we were part of the academic program with Protect Humanitarians. And the students worked on 10 testimonies of humanitarian colleagues, and they produced motion design. Those motion designs will be projected during Soliway in November. And the Protect Humanitarian, who also has a gallery in Brussels, will project them over there. And we also organized conferences in person with many professors and doctors, and one of them was with Dr. Ansgar Rougemont about the use of psychedelics in psychotrauma. We are collaborating with other professions. We don't want to work in silos. We are working with firefighters. We are working with the French military and war reporters as well. And we are trying to exchange the way we are supporting our beneficiaries, and it's really, really interesting. We've been inspired a lot by the French military, and I will explain you why later. And as I said, we have the chance to have several ambassadors. We have Jean-Baptiste Alès, who's a Paralympic athlete. He survived the Burundi genocide. We have Julie Sevilla-Fraisse, who's an international cellist, and she's playing all around the world, spreading the word about CoCreate Humanity. And for those who are living not too far from Switzerland, every year we are organizing a remembrance concert to commemorate the colleagues who have been killed on the field, the ones who've been hurt, in jail, kidnapped. And it's really important for us to do that every year. So every December, we are organizing remembrance concerts. And we had the opportunity in 2023 to work with the Orchestre de la Garde Républicaine in France. And it was very, very emotional to see those musicians wearing that military uniforms playing for humanitarians. And we also have the chance to work with Stéphane Toureau, who is the 2016 World Vice Champion in freediving. We are going to develop a care protocol with Stéphane and a former MSF humanitarians with freediving. What we have in mind for the future, we would like Switzerland to become a hub of reflection on mental health and psychosocial well-being for humanitarians. And we have the dream, but maybe it's not a dream anymore. We were really inspired by what the French military has done for their colleagues. And they have created in 2021 what we call the Maison Athos, where they are taking care of the people who are suffering from PTSD and other kind of trauma. You have peers with them, and you have a psychologist and other therapists to support them as well. So they have the aim to open 10 Athos houses until 2030. We really hope that the first psychosocial rehabilitation center for humanitarians will open here in Switzerland. We are working on it every day. Here you have the contacts to reach CoCreate Humanity. Most of you know us through LinkedIn because we are communicating a lot about our work. And we wanted to quote Bessel van der Kolk, that being traumatized means continuing to organize your life as if the trauma were still going on unchanged and immutable, as every new encounter or event is contaminated by the past. For real change to take place, the body needs to learn that the danger has passed and to live in the reality of the present. Some CoCreate Humanities colleagues will have the opportunity to attend Bessel's event in Paris in September 16 and 17, and we will be there to meet his team, and we hope to be able to work with him and the Trauma Research Foundation in Boston. And that's it. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much, Helene and Sylvia. This was amazing, and your work is really great and impressive. And so, thank you so much for all what the work that you do. And we've got time if people have comments, feedback, reflections. So feel free to just unmute and share with us your reflections.
Tessa, I know that you do a lot for mental health in the sector. I really would like to have your feedback. I'm a bit stressed to listen to you.
Oh gosh, don't be stressed. I'm finding my way every day. No, I think it's a really amazing initiative. I'm literally just transcribing a whole load of discussions I've had with other mental health professionals, and I mean, so much coming out around the importance of peer support, as I think most of the other evidence that's already out there is saying, but particularly this emphasis on the uselessness of employee assistance programs, I think, and that need for connection with someone who understands. So I think on that side, I think this is a really fabulous initiative. I think one question, and I think what you're doing is really good, but also I do a lot of heat training, and I noticed Steve popped on here somewhere, but he might have disappeared again. But around perhaps where in future there is scope for bigger group support, because I meet a lot of people who've been through quite specific incidents, for example, arbitrary detention or kidnapping, for example, where they're just desperate. They maybe have been through the therapy. They just want to talk to someone else who understands and have been through something similar. So again, it's not to take away from the power of what you've just talked about, because in all honesty, I often sit on some of these meetings and I just think, oh, yeah, I'm not quite sure how this is going to go. But there's some really interesting stuff coming up in just the general picture that you presented, but also what you're doing. So I don't want to take away from that, but I do wonder if there's a sort of broader scope for more group-based stuff in the future as well. So yeah.
Thank you. Sylvia, you want to share something? Is she still here? I don't know.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm still here. I just to make sure, because my connection went down for some time. So just to make sure that the comment or question was also about like potential like expanding the scope of this initiative also to encompass other I don't know, issues or experiences. I'm not sure that I grasped it correctly also when I came back to the to the meeting, Tessa, about what you said.
No, don't worry. It was I wasn't particularly clear in really making a question, I guess, but it was firstly just to say I think it's a fantastic initiative. So yeah, congratulations on that and the growth of CoCreate in general. My question was more about in the future, recognizing this is very much early stages in itself, but in the future, is there scope to have more group support for specific issues? Like I say, the example I gave was on people who've experienced abduction and arbitrary detention. Yeah.
Okay, so just from my side, then maybe Helen, you can also integrate me. But from my side, when I presented also, I just like a step back. When I presented also the different types of trainings that are available and at academic level also, there is a part of our team, we're 4 people that will also soon join a university diploma at University of Lyon in France on peer support and neurodiversity. And one colleague who I think is here, Sarah, is completing it. Now. This is just to say that we really want to create a solid basis for professionalization of this role. So really want to legitimize this role through training and making it professional. Now, when you say like, are we looking at expanding the scope in a way, also like taking into account specific incidents that you refer to? From my side, what I can say is that the team is always growing. As Helen was also saying, like we count around a number of 40 people now. So there's been like quite I've been collaborating with CoCreate Humanitarian, as I said, since September 2024, and I've seen it growing exponentially. So I am sure that there will be more people that will join our team. We all bring different experiences with ourselves, different incidents from the field or from like other contexts, always related with a humanitarian sector. So what I can say from my side is that, of course, we're open to any type of experience that people may bring to the team, and why not? This may also encompass what you were saying about like abduction, risk of abduction, or other type of incidents that unfortunately are also to a certain extent common in this sector. Of course, Helen, please.
And what is really interesting, because we discussed, of course, with the University of Lyon, because 4 of us have been admitted for the next university diploma, is that normally peer support, and especially in France or Switzerland, it's peer support for autism or schizophrenia, or, it's for a certain type of trauma, but they never thought about having a peer support diploma for psychotrauma. And as we applied for this, they are really thinking about co-constructing or co-creating something with us in the future. We will see. But before expanding our initiative, we should absolutely consolidate the work. Because we know that, and you know that we know so many colleagues who have done individual initiative because they wanted to do well and they wanted to support the colleagues, but running an organizations and associations, it's so much work, and especially when you are volunteers. And you need to have administrative skills, financial skills, public relationship skills, etc., to build something really, really strong. And before expanding, and we were thinking about expanding maybe this on the field, especially in the culture where therapy is not really admitted, or when you can be stigmatized when you reach for a therapist, etc. Of course, we are thinking about it, but we need to consolidate, and I think it will take maybe 1-2 more years for that, to make sure that we will have trained people to create our own university diploma. And we also thinking about, doing something with the humanitarian leadership, because most of the colleagues who are coming, seeing us, they're not traumatized by the context or by the work. They are traumatized by the hierarchy, by the managers. So there is something to do from the roots to make sure that you have the right people at the right place in the management hierarchy. And so this is something we are thinking about. We have I had the opportunity to meet the Professor George Kohler-Reiser, who's working for IMD. He was a hostage negotiator, and he wrote the book Hostage at the Table. I invite you to read that book. And we are discussing currently on co-creating a leadership, a humanitarian leadership training that we will be able to bring on the field. So it will take times, but we are working step by step. It's hummingbird step, but at least it's something. That's what I'm saying. Most of the time when I'm, attending those conferences, we're always talking about statistics and facts, and it's a lot of words, but words are flying away. Actions remain, and that's what we do. We are really small. We know that we are really small. We have such a small budget, but we have volunteers. We have passionate people in that team, and this is really important because this passion and motivation and this will to change the colleagues' conditions can change the world. And it's really important to keep that motivation. And I can tell you, running an association with only volunteers, keeping that motivation and that passion is not an easy work. Yes, Vasilia, you have a question. Thanks, Tessa.
Yes, thank you so much, Sylvia and Helen, for sharing all of your experience and presenting all of your very impressive work. I believe that Sylvia mentioned that the mismanagement that is the trauma mismanagement that is associated with humanitarian work is becoming worse as time passes. And I know you've already mentioned it briefly, but I was wondering if you would mind elaborating a bit about how and why it has grown worse, a bit more in detail. And also, is the stigma around the unbreakable humanitarian also becoming worse along with it? Is the stigma being reinforced, or are we slowly starting to realize that humanitarians are also people, or not so much? Thank you.
I think we will have several answers because you have so many humanitarians today. So Sylvia, you can start, and then we can ask others to participate as well.
Sure. Thank you, Alain. Thank you, Lucia, for your questions. So first question is, we took some figures from a report dating of covering 2024 that was showing an increased number of incidents in the field, and I guess that indeed the three areas that were covering the majority of incidents were the occupied Palestinian territories, South Sudan and Sudan. So definitely there is the situation in Gaza, of course, has made skyrocketing the number of incidents in the field. So this is in terms of incidents that we can see this has become worse over the past few months. Now, I would like to talk, to answer your question, I would like also to refer to the funding crisis that the sector is experiencing, because especially when it comes to, well, first of all, I would like to say my experience, in my understanding and my experience, having data and figures about mental health is always more difficult than having number figures when it comes to other types of incidents. For several reasons, and also I think stigma is part of those reasons. Now, the funding crisis, I think that has hit so suddenly, so I don't know, probably unexpectedly to this extent, the sector, and in an unprecedented way, that the majority of organizations, being directly or indirectly hit by this sudden change and cut of funding, I think that have as a first reaction also start cutting some positions, and a part of these positions are also the positions that relate to mental health support to staff, like staff counselors, for example. You know that big organizations in the field have already some sort of structure to support mental health of staff. Staff counseling, staff counselors are part of these structures. And I know that a lot of agencies, also like big agencies and organizations, have cut in that respect. So the risk is that because of the funding crisis, whatever was achieved before in terms of supporting, enhancing, reinforcing mental health of humanitarian workers may be lost or maybe put in the back burner for some time. And this is, I think that's a very concrete risk that will probably be assessed in the coming months with surveys or with research and studies that will show if this in fact had an impact on the mental health of staff, because actions and interventions that were done already in terms of prevention, promotion of mental health activities and support have probably been suffering from these funding cuts. And about the question on stigma, the idea linked to the unbreakable human. My appreciation of this is that the tides are changing. So there is a little bit of a change in the direction. Before it was the absolute idea that humanitarian workers are unbreakable machines. And I speak also for personal experience in that. The idea of being resilient and of always being able to perform at the best of our capacity, which of course wasn't possible considering also the difficult context we often work, was like a myth, was something that was not negotiable. I think that there is more and more discussion about this. There is more and more awareness that this is not the case, that we are human beings, that we have needs. There is no shame in asking for help, because if we are not well ourselves, how can we actually bring support to anybody else? I think that we're not quite there in absolutely and acknowledging this without any condition, but we are going towards there. So my answer to your question is that this is slowly but steadily changing. Still slowly, we're still far away from this full acceptance of the human nature of humanitarian workers. But I do think that there is a change, because also there is more sensitization. The very fact that we're here talking about this now, I know that Lucia is very careful to that, and that in your master on humanitarian intervention, there is a big important chunk that is of work that goes into this, and there are more and more researches out there about this, and this also, of course, implies that we are not unbreakable. I don't know if I have answered your questions. Please let me know if I can add anything else, and anybody, please feel free to jump in.
Yes, no, thank you very much for your answer. It answered my question, but I don't know if someone else wants to bring their opinion. If yes, then that would be very welcome. If not, it's okay. Thank you.
And maybe if we could ask Sarah, I don't know, Sarah, if you can talk and share a little bit about, the university diploma you are currently doing, and I don't know if you can talk and share a little bit about, your humanitarian background and why you decided to get involved into CoCreate Humanities Initiative and the diploma you are currently doing.
Yes, I can. I'm sorry, I have a problem with my computer and I cannot put the camera on. But I hope you can hear me well.
Yeah, we can hear you.
So from my side, as Sylvia or you were mentioning before, often we see that the factors of stress and psychological challenges within the sector are not coming from the living conditions or the different security incidents that we can go through in the field, but from the management, the bad practices in terms of management. And in my case, this is what happened to me. So first, I went through a burnout and as well a post-traumatic disorder following an incident that was purely due to the fact that my organization, the organization I was working with at the time, did not want to invest to make sure I had work permit and residency in the country I was working in. And it resulted in my detention in an airport for 2 days after, and then I was sent back to France. So, and then very unpleasant situation that really impacted me. And back then, I remember when I asked for help after some weeks at home, the organization I was working for just did not react. And I really felt isolated because I had not been living in France for the last 18 years. So suddenly being stuck in France without being able to go back to the country where I had been working and living for 4 years was very traumatic. And this, so on my side, these are the incidents and the challenges that I faced that brought me to realize that mental health, not only that it was important, but it was not, it was really underestimated and undervalued in the sector in a way that organizations were not really taking their responsibilities. So I started following up some trainings on mental health first aid, and I came up with the CoCreate Humanity, I think in 2023. I've been now working in a way, volunteering with you for the last year and a half. And as I worked with CCH, I discovered the concept of peer support. And yes, I decided to join the diploma, to start the diploma last November. Now I've been, I finished all the courses, and I'm currently working on my dissertation. And to jump on one of the points that, one of the questions that was asked and what Sylvia was mentioning regarding the fact that humanitarian workers are unbreakable. And I think this is really changing, as she was saying, and in all the discussions and the studies the surveys I've been conducting for my dissertation, everyone agrees to say that there has been a shift over the last few years, that now it's something that humanitarian workers are more and more asking for, staff care and staff care support and psychological support. So more and more people are asking for that. There's less fear of being stigmatized when talking about those concepts. So it's really encouraging to see that this is changing. And of course, it's not only at the humanitarian sector level, but I think more at the society level as well. So it's encouraging to see that things are moving forward, hopefully in the good direction.
Thanks a lot, Sarah, for sharing. And I just would like to add something, because of course you did a survey with the colleagues, at an individual level, but you also reach many organizations. And it was really interesting to see that they were really interested and attracted by what we were doing, because you had like 18 6-7 responses in just 2 weeks with big organizations. So it was really interesting to talk with them, and we can't wait to read your dissertation. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you very much.
Is there any other questions you want to share? I'd just like to ask Laura and Ariana, who joined the team very recently as motion designers, because you are a student, you're living in Paris. We were part of your academic program at Gobelin, and you came to us and asking for an internship with CoCreate Humanity because you wanted to contribute. And I really would like to know, why CoCreate Humanity? What was the choice? Why did you decide to go further than the academic program, and how you're going to contribute? You're on mute.
Okay. Sorry, it gave me a pop-up and I got scared I was leaving. Hi, I'm Ariana, by the way. I'm sorry, I thought you were going to introduce yourself too, Laura. So First of all, thank you for the presentation today. That was amazing. I feel like we've had a few meetings since we've started this internship and gotten a lot of information to read through. And every single time I feel like I learn so much more and get such a better understanding. So I'm super excited to finally start working on the motion design piece. And I hope that I do well to the organization. So basically, I wanted to, why I was interested to work for CoCreate Humanity for my internship. It was basically because I feel like these opportunities within motion design are sort of super rare to come by. And even when we got this project initially proposed for, was it back in February or March? Our initial projects on testimonies from humanitarians. Professors said that it's something that we should really cherish because it's not as often that we could see such an immediate impact to make a change, because at the end of the day, a lot of it, the companies that we work for in the future are going to be more advertising related, and I don't know, it feels a little bit more sell your soul at certain times. So when this opportunity sort of presented itself, it's something that sort of became undeniable in the way that it's just so beyond fulfilling, and especially working in a growing organization as well, but still somewhere that's somewhat small where we could really see all the people that we touch. And yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ariana. Steve, is that possible to have your feedback on our presentations before we listen to Laura? How are you, Steve?
Yeah, hi, salut tout le monde.
Salut.
Yeah, hey, thanks for saying hi. You know, it's great. I really like what you're doing. I feel there's a network of individuals in this space, and it's great that we're talking. Tess, you had a comment about sort of a very specific peer supports, and I think you mentioned my name there. Yeah, I see like Hostage International, for instance, is very focused on deprivation of freedom events. Yeah, though I think there's just something about general peer support, like being available to somebody to hear what they're going through and to validate it. So Hélène, I love what you and the whole team have been working on for years with this. I think it's so validating to people who've probably been gaslit and told that their injuries are just part of the job when maybe they're not. It's just that they haven't been able to show the documentation for it or whatnot. So no, I love it. I don't really have anything to add. Thank you very much. Keep doing this.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks so much.
It's good to see more of your network.
Yeah, thank you very much. We have worked with Steve already. We've done a webinar together, and we always in touch to discuss different topics. That's thank you.
Actually, Hélène, can I just make a small introduction? Because I don't believe I've met everyone.
Yes, please go
my name
ahead.
is Steve Dennis, and I run a service called Proper Support, and it's a little bit of peer support, but more so helping people navigate the complex environment of injury and grievance. So there's a lot of vocabulary and paperwork that's different than their expertise in the field. So for instance, if somebody is kidnapped or lost a job through an injury or whatnot, often they're lost through policies. So they get in touch with me. We figure out what we can do with that, what resources are there. So there's a bit of that, and then trying to take those lessons to advocate. So sometimes some of the teams I build involve lawyers and legal processes. So sometimes there's pushing policy through legal action. But ideally, it's not that. Ideally, it's making people aware of what's going on so that they change their behavior and practices. So yeah, that's it. Proper support, reach out anytime.
Yes. Yeah. And thanks a lot for the great work you are doing as well, Steve. Really.
Appreciate that. Yeah, good stuff.
Okay. Laura, do you just want to say a quick word before we close the session?
Of course. So I'm Laura, Ariana's colleague and classmate of last year. I wanted to join the project because I was very touched by the initiative of focusing on the forgotten ones. So the level above helping others, I mean, people helping others that are forgotten and mistreated despite trying their best to help. And I felt like I wanted to bring some help at my level, as you mentioned earlier. And we discussed that when we interviewed for that position. Creativity is a human tool to convey feelings and experiences, and it's also a way to relate. And it was my ambition starting motion design to be able to convey informations and help by working in a creative field. So I felt like it was making a lot of sense to join you.
Thank you, Laura. And with those kind of very modern support, we can reach the young generations because they are the future of this world. So this is really important to be able to talk to them. And I really invite you to see our motion designs videos on our YouTube channel, and then you will have the 2025 videos soon, step by step. And yeah, I think we're done. If you don't have any questions, I really would like to thank you all again for being here, and Sylvia for your intervention. It was really great. Lucia, of course, for your trust, because it went so fast. I mean, we just had one exchange, one email, and we said, okay, let's do something together. And I think it's just really great. And we can see the energy that and the motivation people have to join us, gradually. And I'm myself very amazed by the all those people. It's just crazy, and I think that means that we are doing the right job, that it's really worth it, and we're going to keep on doing this good work at all level, and we won't be frustrated. As I always say to the team, please don't feel frustrated because we're not going to change the world, but we are just changing it at all level, and this is what you have to keep in mind before going to bed. And I really would like to thank you again, and I hope we'll see you around soon.
Thank you so much, Helene and Sylvia. Thank you, everyone, for being here. This was amazing. And you're right, it was quick. We don't know well each other, but my sense when we met online was that we were just on the same page. It was very harmonious, the whole thing. So, and it was really great today to have you here. So thank you so much, everyone. And I will share slides and recording tomorrow. I can't do that tonight, but thank you again, and let's stay in touch. Let's keep working together. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Ciao.
Thank you. Bye.
Have a nice evening. Ciao.
And you. Bye. Ciao.
Ciao.